So health as a whole is a fantastic entry point, since we are pretty self-focused as humans, because they go, if this can do something for me, then I want to, I'm willing to give it a try. However, I will say that the stickiest way to stay in this movement is to find out and then realize and make a shift for the animals. But I have found that can be a rough entry point for a lot of people. Somebody wanted to know about the what's wrong with dairy. They wanted to know my story. So I started with the ethics, and they just looked at me and are like, I don't care about that. I want to be healthy. Is there something wrong with dairy from a health perspective? And so, but I think that most people, to stick with it, they come in through something self-motivated, but then they've got to uncover, they've got to take the top off the rabbit hole and go ahead and dive in, and then they're lifers.
For nature.
For the ocean.
For people.
For animals.
Hello, beautiful Sanusplanet community. I'm so thankful and happy that you're here today. And as you can see, I have a wonderful and beautiful guest today. Such an amazing person, I have to say, Dotsie Bausch. I'm pretty sure that most of you which listen to my podcast might not know Dotsie yet, but Dotsie is an amazing person I got to know about 2 weeks ago. And Dotsie, you're an Olympic silver medalist, and you are the founder of the Switch4Good, together with an actress, a Baywatch actress. I think many of our listeners know Baywatch, can remember that. And the health coach, Alexandra Paul, you created also the Switch4Good podcast, and I love it already. We had such a nice connection already at the beginning before we started recording this podcast. And I love this podcast already. I need to listen to it. Welcome very much to Sanusplanet podcast. Thank you for taking time.
Yes, and some of your listeners probably saw the Game Changers documentary, and I'm the cyclist in there, so they got a little tidbit of my story and just the journey of all the different athletes that were wonderful in the movie.
Yeah,
their veganism,
so amazing,
right, and their passion.
Yeah, because that's a movie I was shared already quite some time in the Sanusplanet community to watch. Everybody should watch that movie, so you will see Dotsie in this movie. Well, with your work and with the podcast, with everything you do, you reached already about over 395,000 people, as I saw, right? This is
395 million.
Million,
in 5 years.
Million. Oh my God, this is crazy. I thought 395,000. That's a lot of people. What, 395 million? Okay, this is like, we track touch points, we track engagements, and we track conversions at Switch4Good. Yeah. So a touch point is just, it's like an impression, right? Just like a boom, they saw something somewhere once from us, and that's a touch point. And then engagements, we've engaged with over 9 million people, had conversation, they've shared our stuff, or we have engaged with them. What an engagement, everybody knows what that is. Mm-hmm. And then a conversion, we've converted, we're just shy of 2 million people where they have converted over to a more plant-forward, less dairy diet. Yes, and that's exactly what we'll talk today about. Because like everybody who listens to this podcast knows I am vegan. Everybody knows I'm an animal lover, but also people know, or I was talking about, I was eating animals once. So I didn't get born as a vegan. Probably I was born as a vegan, but then I turned into a carnivore. But
right.
Again, right? It was quite a process. So I wanted to ask you already, as an Olympic medalist, you probably heard all versions of about a healthy diet and how it should look like. And can you tell us a little bit about about your interests of changing your diet? Because I can imagine you were not vegan, right? I don't know.
No, ma'am. No. Right? I'm just like you, I ate meat, right? Not animals. I ate meat and drank everything that they would squeeze out for me from their bodies. For 35 years, I grew up in kind of middle America, southern Midwest, a state called Kentucky. And we are the home of Kentucky Fried Chicken, which a lot of people know about, sadly. And I ate everything. I mean, we grew up on barbecue and brisket and potato salad and coleslaw, and everything had mayonnaise and eggs and dairy. I mean, really, truly, that was what I ate at every single meal. And I had a soul shift that as you describe as well, you had your first soul shift, as from what I know from watching you speak, in the ocean, when a fish was tangled in a net and you didn't have a tool at the time. You got one and you made it happen, but you didn't have a tool at the time to break them free. I had a soul shift growing up, having and loving so many different types of animals, from horses to dogs to bunny rabbits to gerbils. I had all of them. It's really the only place I wanted to be as a little girl was with my animals, yet I was eating all the other animals. So a couple of years out from Olympic Games, so fast forward to 2010, I went to the 2012 Olympic Games. I had a similar soul shift as you, in terms of, I wasn't at the bottom of the ocean. I was on land, but I had that moment where I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? How have I not been open to this? How have I not allowed myself to see the truth? Yeah. And when we have that deep soul shift, it's very difficult to deny, and you realize your whole entire life is going to change, because what we eat is, it's 3 times a day, and as an athlete it's 6 times a day. So I'm faced with it, immediately, like the moment after my soul shift, within 20 minutes I've done a workout and I have to eat something. So I just started kind of unraveling what my plate was going to look like, right? I'm a couple years out from Olympic Games. I haven't made the team yet, right? I'm still hoping to make the team, and I'm making this big shift in my diet.
What started the shift? I mean, why did this shift happen? Was there a moment or a connection?
I had what I thought I was seeing something on TV. I think it was a dream, because you don't want to hear the whole reason why, but it was like a horror film of pigs getting slaughtered. And I remember calling my mom. I was actually at a race in Minnesota, like a bike race, and it was like in the middle of the night. And I remember calling my mom and telling her everything. But to this day, she says there was never such phone call. So I'm curious if I had a dream, or a nightmare. And
maybe
exactly. Yeah. I don't really know. I'll never probably entirely know, but Mom and I just uncovered that like 3 years ago, that she's no recollection of any type of phone call. And it's like, oh boy, what really happened? But anyway, after that, I just dove down the rabbit hole that we've all been down. So mostly the internet, but then talking to people, different organizations that are doing this, like, wait a minute, what is happening? And just, it was, in a flash, you find out the truth. If you're searching for it, if you're searching for the truth, it's there. It was very easy to find. So it was almost like I went down the path of like each animal, like it was pigs, and then it was cows, and then it was chickens. I never ate fish because I just didn't like it. So I didn't have to worry about them. We leave them in the ocean. And then it was dairy, and then it was eggs. And for athletes, we like our dairy and our eggs because they're easy, quick fuel, we think, right? Easy, quick protein. So I said, I've got to figure out how to do this in a way that hopefully I can still be strong enough and powerful enough and have enough endurance and enough recovery that I can make the Olympic team. But I had this feeling in the back of my head, Maggy, but maybe it was the back of my heart, that I'm doing something that's good. It's the right thing. And because I'm doing the right thing, I don't know, the universe or whoever's out there is not going to let me down. And not only was that the case, I didn't get let down, but I got stronger, faster, more resilient, better recovery, woke up with less lag, kind of that we train 3 times a day as track cyclists. So I usually would wake up in the morning feeling hungover, which an athlete hangover feels a lot like an alcohol hangover. You're just groggy and loaded and inflamed. The strength part was what was most surprising to me. I mean, I was not totally shocked that I was recovering better, because as I was starting to understand and doing my own, look on the internet and diving into the research and talking to doctors, I really started to understand how much my chronic inflammation from training was, going down. But I didn't really think that I was going to be able to build as much muscle anymore. You know, I was kind of stuck in that idea that we all go, oh God, you know, you're going to get enough protein. Where are you going to get the protein? Is it the right kind of protein? You know, is it like, it's like protein's protein, people.
Right? The question.
Yeah. I swear I'm going to be in my grave answering that question. How do I get enough protein? But I was shocked to find out I did a lot of training on the inverted leg sled, which leg press is some countries call it more of a leg press, leg. And before I changed over to an all plant-based diet, I was pushing about 300 pounds, because we do pounds over here, times 50 reps, times 5 sets. And 3 months before the Olympics, when I started to taper off the weightlifting, I was up to 585 pounds times 60 reps times 6 sets.
It's a double. What?
On plants. It's almost, yeah, exactly. It's just barely under double. Wow. So it just blew away that misnomer, that untruth that you can't get strong and you can't build muscle. You just need protein, and there's tons of protein in all different kinds of plants. There's more protein in some plants than other plants. Yes, for sure. You know, but there's plenty there. And I also realized too, the power of the carbohydrate, right? We've all been scared of carbohydrates. You know, I'm going to gain weight. This is going to happen, but it is an athlete's fuel. Carbohydrates are so critical and they're so important, and they kind of have a superpower, because when you eat carbohydrates, you can use them immediately for energy, or if you don't use them immediately for energy, they will store in your muscles and in your liver. Mm-hmm. No, the other macronutrients do not do that. So I just think that's the coolest thing. And it really is a superpower, because you can utilize them when you need them, right? And you can top off, maybe you're on a bike ride and you're adding a little carbohydrate in, it turns straight into glycogen, goes straight into your muscles, and you can use it for energy. So I'm no longer a carbophobe. Even after retirement, like I realize how I just feel so much more energy when I eat, you know, whole food carbohydrates, right? Not so much the processed carbs, but potatoes. I'm a sweet potato junkie, you know, but just like that, the whole carbohydrates, I try to get to people to understand they are not the enemy. They do not make you fat. They literally give you life. They literally give you the energy you need.
So amazing. That's so amazing. I can imagine you help so many people to understand or to see the whole diet topic from a different angle, because you're the best example for that. I mean, so many things that you just talked about right now, it's like I would have so many questions now, but it's crazy. It's really
it's good. It's good to help people with the questions, because it's just I had to figure it out. Right. So I had to go down a pretty deep path quickly, because I needed to understand, like, you know, what I knew what my plate was supposed to look like if it had animals on it.
Yeah.
Right. That was just already ingrained in us. And I was also alone, because back then the sports scientists, the coaches, the trainers, the dietitians, they didn't have any data or information. And I mean, most of them just thought, oh, you're going to waste away. This is a bad decision. You know, now, not so much. Like, it's really starting to open up Pandora's box for everyone. They get it. Yeah. But back then it was like my job to like, I have to figure this out. And so I learned nutrition. Really, I didn't know it before. I just ate whatever they told me, right? Here's, you know, this animal and this animal secretion, and then maybe a little bit of salad. Yeah. But maybe I had to figure it out. Yeah. Which was a pretty fun journey, because it was really cool to find out how much more nutrient dense plant foods are. Because I didn't know that before, you know, at all. So it was like, oh wow, these micronutrients are also.
Yeah. Do you think that having been there, knowing how it is on the other side, that helps you now a lot?
Well, yes, definitely, because I'm able to just help so many others with the knowledge and the information. I think they want the science and the data, which we have, and I'll give to them. But I think the anecdotal story helps people too. You know, they just want to be able to relate. Not everybody's an Olympic athlete. So I think there's, you know, kind of the thinking, well, if an Olympic athlete can pull it off, you know, I can probably pull it off for my spin class 4 days a week, which is what I do now. I'm not an like I've been retired for 11 years. So I just did spin class this morning, you know, so it's just all about that optimal, it's that optimal human state. Right. And part of it is I think that the love and the kindness and the energy and the openness to not eat our friends, right? I mean, that it sounds woo woo, but I think that's the biggest change that people notice. And then they start to notice, oh, I have a little bit more energy, and I have a little bit more zest, and I have, it helped me with my mental health too. And, I obviously not every single human, and we don't have as much data as we will have in the future on that, but I don't want to say mental health, meaning like I was in a really dark place. I just mean I would wake up feeling lighter and happier and more positive. Just and heading towards the Olympics is incredibly stressful, because you're fighting for the spot against the people that are going to be your future teammates that you have to then work like a unit, but you're battling each other to make, so it's really stressful. So I just noticed this like shift, like they would get really stressed and really angry really easily. And I was like, wow, this is weird. And I don't, I'm like, is there data to support this? Because I just felt like I could handle more mentally and emotionally on plants. You know what I mean? I would get less upset with the intensity of the competition with my teammates, if you will.
I think, I talk now just from my own experience, and I cannot say if there's a data proving it, but I really have the feeling, and that's what my whole body, cells, everything in me, everything what I think and believe in is telling me this. As long as we eat animals that suffered, that had a bad life, animals that want to live, but we put the killing on our plate, even if we don't kill ourselves, we pay someone to do it for us, so we can look away. As long as we do that, involve killing in our lifestyle, I think we cannot be free. We cannot be really, truly positive, happy, creating this really amazing life that we can create when we kick out the killing and this craziness of how we deal with animals, how we do with them. Like, this is all negative energy, and also what we feed them, what we give them, the hormones, the antibiotics, all of these things. And then before they are killed, they put out so much stress and fear hormones. We eat that. We eat that. I know. So how could it be different than change everything in myself? All of my energy changes by not supporting this. Just that alone, we don't even have to talk about nutrition at the beginning. I think this is already this alone, the energy itself is such a huge topic that sometimes people don't talk about or forget about.
Yeah. And those that I think are kind of a little bit tuned in will do take a loving gesture with the right heart, I know, and with the right thinking of who they're trying to be, and lean towards all of the industries words that they prey on to attract those people: pasture raised, grass fed. I always say lavender massaged, because like, who cares if you got a massage right before you get a bullet in your head, but they'll lean into that. But I think I just, from just, if you just break it down to the simplest, it's at the end of the day, no matter what their life was, you're taking a life from someone who didn't want to die, and who most likely has a family who will be crushed and confused at where that animal is. And I'm talking from farming. I'm talking from a mother beef cow who produces 17 to 19 babies in her lifetime, only to have every single one of them ripped away from her safe and loving side at around 6 months. Here in the US, it's about 6 months. They go to a feedlot to fatten them up for 3 more months, and they're slaughtered at 9 months. All the way to just hunting, right? Like, you're just taking a life that doesn't want to die. And I'm like, that can't set. That just doesn't set right. Yeah. Just doesn't set.
And especially when you don't have to, I cannot understand, because I have never been there, that I needed meat to survive, right? But there are people in this world which probably still have a little bit of this, they live completely in a different world than me here with my white ass in Europe, right? With all the possibility I have. But there was a time when we had to somehow get through time and through the winter. So we tried to use what we had, and we ate animals. But that was when I talked with older people at my home. It was, if it was a lot. It was twice a week that they ate a piece of meat. Like, it has nothing to do with nowadays. And now when I talk to people and to farmers many times, not all farmers, I have some amazing friends which are farmers, which are completely changing, even though they're not there yet, but they do it in a different way. They try their best, right? But when I talk to some people, they say they will always want to tell me, hey, if I don't eat meat today, I cannot even do my work because I need meat to work. And then I think, well, like, you cannot work when you don't eat meat today? What's that? Like, sorry, but what? I mean, how did your parents do? Because how did they grow you? I mean, like how did that happen? Do you think this is like more like this psychological thing that we really eat meat? Because I think it's all
100%, because our energy comes from carbohydrates. I mean, that's just science.
Yeah.
Right. That we need protein is the amino acids build protein. And those are the building blocks, right, of building our muscular structure. But to have meat and then say that helps you work harder 1 hour or 2 hours later. No, it doesn't. Makes you want to take a nap. 2 hours later. Do you need protein? Yes, not from meat, but you need protein to build muscle and stay strong for your job a week from now, 2 weeks from now. But if you want to feel like a badass in 2 hours, it's a sweet potato, honey, all day long. I'll go to the.
That's amazing. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your podcast and about Switch for Good in general. What exactly is it about, and why did you start Switch for Good? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, we are a organization that's just incredibly passionate about the planet and people's health. My story is, as you've just heard, starts completely and entirely with the animals, but passionate about helping people move to a more, plant-friendly, plant-based diet, if you will. And so we started as almost entirely advocacy, because we didn't set out to start an organization. Mm-hmm. I got a group of Olympians together, 7 of us from 4 different countries, and we filmed a commercial to put on the closing ceremonies of the Olympic Games in 2018 on NBC. So here in America, that's our big, that's who covers the Olympics here, and it's on, all 3 weeks nonstop. And many of us, especially the athletes from the US, had experienced this incredible amount of pressure to eat dairy, because the dairy industry was the title sponsor of the United States Olympic team for 10 years, like most of the years when I was on the team. Many people aren't aware that the United States and New Zealand are the only countries in the world whose Olympic teams are not government funded. So they have to go out and get private funding. So the US got the private funding. Really, it's our government's money, though, because 73% of the dairy industry's income in the United States comes from our federal government, our tax dollars. So really, follow the dollar. But so we put this, we just felt so passionate about, and just so exhausted from hearing the same lie over and over again, that you need milk, just from a cow, not from any other species, very specifically from a cow, not something species specific like a dog or something. That would actually be a little bit smarter, probably not give so much inflammation, right? Yes. But and so we said, we're going to stand up, we're going to say something, and we're going to be clear that cow's milk does not build strong athletes. It doesn't build strong bones. It doesn't build strong people, and it doesn't win Olympic gold medals. So we filmed this whole commercial. It's pretty rad. NBC, we pay our money, which was, as you can imagine, very expensive to come on the closing ceremonies, Olympic Games. We paid for it in 6 cities because we couldn't afford every city in the state, in the country. So anyway, long story short, the dairy industry got it kicked off. They called NBC. It aired in one city. It aired Washington, D.C. on the East Coast. It's supposed to, come across the country, across the time zones. We're in California getting ready to have a big party. Yeah. It doesn't show up. No commercial. So next morning we find out what happened. They did give us our money back, but we really started from that. And I think if there was ever a thank you that I have to the dairy industry, which there's not any other thank yous, but that lit a fire in us. If they hadn't gotten it kicked off, I think we would have been like, okay, we said our piece and let's go do whatever else activism we're going to do. But when they did that, it was like all of us just said, oh no, this is not how this is going to play out. And Switch for Good launched from that. So we really launched from anger, from, you know what I mean? From being pissed off is how we got started. So we were a little angry our first year, and we very quickly learned that to lovingly change people's hearts and minds, it's anger is not the way you lead, you know? But so lots of advocacy and education. But in the last 3 years, we've shifted, not away from advocacy, because we'll always do that, but more in the United States to governmental food policy change and restaurant food policy change. So, you know, people can go to our website and learn what we're doing in those areas. We have a bill in Congress and Senate that if it passes, it's going to be the first in history that's ever been anything like this. But in the United States, the 51 million children of the national school lunch program, so our public school system here, only have one beverage choice: cow's milk. They are not allowed to have anything else. They have to have a doctor's. No, right. It is literally forced on them. There's a ton of waste involved. I mean, I could kind of go into all of the areas of the problems with it, besides the fact that it's cow's milk, right? Like that's the main problem, but there's a lot of other layers of issues, especially for children of color, because 80% of them can't even digest that crap, and it makes them sick and uncomfortable, and that affects their learning potential against white kids. So that have are more able to digest cow's milk, right?
Because they are used it to longer, right?
Absolutely, right? We're genetically mutated, you and I. I mean, I could drink a gallon of cow's milk and feel completely fine. We're genetically mutated. Our lactase enzyme stayed on.
Exactly. Well, you always say intolerance, but in the end, it's the opposite. Like
they're normal
to drink this thing.
Right. Right. I hate that too. I hate that it's like a negative, like you're intolerant. They're completely normal. They have completely normal guts. Their lactase enzyme turned off at 5, 6, or 7, because, you know, our bodies are really smart and they know, oh, I don't need to digest the sugar in my own mother's breast milk, right? Like that's why it turns off, because mom and I have separated, because I'm now eating solid food and I don't need that enzyme anymore. And so it's completely normal to be intolerant and abnormal to be, you know, mutated like I am and you are probably.
So crazy. If you think about like I know people who have this intolerance, which is completely normal, and start to take pills for being able to digest milk. Well, if that's a problem with the milk, then maybe just don't drink the milk. That would be the easy thing. Then to take pills, which make you more sick. Like in the end, what's that? Like this is like the crazy thing. It's so much in this whole topic inside. It's one I don't even know how to say it in English. It's one round of craziness wiped up. Like what?
I know. It's hard to like. It helps to go back and try and remember when I was drinking cow's milk and why I was drinking it, and it wasn't just milk, right? It was cheese, and it was cottage cheese, and it was yogurt. It was, you know, there's so many products from it, and some of them are very delicious, and people want to be able to eat that, and they want to be able to enjoy it. And doing this work, I've realized how many people just want to feel normal. I feel like I hear that all the time when people, you know, go plant-based and then they stop being plant-based. Most of the reasons that I get, you know, I'll say, oh, really? What, did you not like it? No, I liked it. I felt great. Well, why'd you stop? Well, it was hard at work. I felt weird at restaurants. It was hard to go out with friends to dinner. It was hard to go over to people's homes for dinner. It was almost all cultural stuff and feeling like they're weird or an outcast. And they said, so I just stopped, and I'll say, oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know, how do you feel now? Oh, I gained 30 pounds back. It sucks. And then it makes you realize how much people are literally dying to feel normal, because they're willing to feel crappier, get worse sleep, not have energy, and gain 30 pounds. So that's just, that's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's one, but to know that this is happening, and that's one of the reasons why people are probably not sticking with the plant-based diet sometimes for a long time. I think that helps to find better solutions, right? Because we know from that we have to create projects that make people feel normal by being vegan, and to have vegan options everywhere, and to not feel like you're an alien because you're eating a plant-based diet, but because you're such a beautiful soul that thinks about other beautiful souls and cares for them, and cares for the planet and for each other. That's who you are, and not you're strange and weird and I don't know, an alien or something like that. So we need to normalize it much more. That means that's why it's so amazing what you do. It's
to continue our work. We can't quit. We can't quit yet.
Yes, exactly. So you are working a lot with the governmental law changes and with restaurants, you said, right? With schools probably as well.
Right. Now, so it's a national, like the school lunch program is a federal law. So you can't change this specific law that cow's milk is the only choice. You can't change it at a local or state level because it's a federal law. You have to go federally. You know, I mean, you can change it at private schools, but not at public schools, right? Okay. So we have about 50 million kids in public schools in the US. So that's a lot of children that are being forced to drink this one drink. So it is a bill that will simply, it's a very simple bill, add soy milk into the national school lunch program so that children then have freedom of choice at the lunch counter. So they'll be able to choose the soy milk that doesn't make them sick. They'll also still have cow's milk to choose from. We're a ways away from being able to, well, we'll get there. But that's that's the bill. And it's going to be a game changer for those kiddos, but it's also, it'll just be the first time that our federal government recognized that we aren't serving all people, all children fairly, because when they created the National School Lunch Program, it was in 1946 after World War II. And we suddenly had all of these commodities on hand because we had been feeding a lot of the Allied forces, and the war's over, no more Allied forces. And we have a lot of commodities. Dairy was one of those commodities. So President Truman and a senator, actually, Richard B. Russell, it's the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Program Act that dumped all the dairy in schools. Yeah. I'm sure at the time it was, good intentions because they thought it was healthy at the time. Yeah. So that is when, and schools were segregated in the United States at that period of time. So they didn't even have children of color to say, this makes me more sick than the white. But then, schools become unsegregated in the 1950s with Brown versus Board of Education. And until we did this act, no one had asked the question, hey, hold on. Yeah. Is this good for all children? It's not good for any of us, but you know what I'm saying? If you can't even digest it, you've got a big problem with your learning potential because you're, kiddos, they're gassy and they're farty and they're wheezing and they have asthma. It's all the, it's a lot of physical problems that happen when you're intolerant to digest something, anything. And so it's sort of 73 years later, we as a country have not asked this very important question. So if it passes, it's going to be monumental and we'll see. I mean, we got it. We've been working on it for almost 3 years. But it's been introduced in the House and the Senate, and for us, we have to have everything bipartisan over here, like both Democrat and Republican. Nothing passes anymore if it's not bipartisan. It used to, but not anymore. So it's a very bipartisan. We have very conservative Republicans and pretty liberal Democrats as the co-sponsors of the bill, which is important. So fingers crossed.
Well, I cross both fingers like a lot, and I hope for the best, really, because it's needed. And do you think when you talk to people, I don't have many more, I have thousands of questions, but I think we probably have to do a second podcast another time because the podcast is kind of going to the end. But one more question, when you talk to people, what is your feeling of what is the most, the best way to reach, everyone is different, and has different ideas and ideals. But what is for you the best way to reach people's hearts so they start to listen and open up for a plant-based diet? Because people can choose a vegan diet for different reasons, like for health, for climate, for the animals. There's so many reasons. Yeah. What is in your opinion, in your what you have seen so far in your work, what is the reason that reaches the people the easiest? What do you think?
Well, what we found is, especially since we started as an athlete crew. So, it's people still come to us. We just created the first plant-based playbook that's just the science and data on how to change over to a plant-based diet. We wrote it alongside the International Olympic Committee. And that was huge because the athletes needed a guide, right? They have guides on dead animals on their plate they've had for eons. And so since we started that way, we will tend to open up with the health and performance, but not necessarily like elite athlete performance, just everyday performance, because we have found that most people, we are inherently selfish humans. You know, and we're thinking about ourselves most of the day. And so if you can hit that chord in someone, whatever they are struggling from, maybe it's low energy, maybe they're just, you know, they want to lose some weight because they just can't go run and play with their 3-year-old and they're feeling lethargic. Maybe they have early onset heart disease. Maybe they have a cancer, like a hormonal based cancer, where they really need to get the animal foods out of their diet. So all sorts of different reasons. But so health as a whole is a fantastic entry point, since we are pretty self-focused as humans, because they go, if this can do something for me, then I want to, you know, I'm willing to give it a try. However, I will say that the stickiest way to stay in this movement is to find out and then realize and make a shift for the animals. But I have found that can be a rough entry point for a lot of people. Like before the podcast, you and I were speaking this weekend at an event. Somebody wanted to know about the what's wrong with dairy. They wanted to know my story. So I started with the ethics, and they just looked at me and are like, I don't care about that. I want to be healthy. What is there something wrong with dairy from a health perspective? And so, but I think that most people, to stick with it, they come in through something self-motivated, something selfish about themselves, but then they've got to uncover, they've got to take the top off the rabbit hole and go ahead and dive in, and then they're lifers. So that's what we've learned and we found. And I mean, the planet's a great motivator too. That can stick in there at any point, but I feel like people give up on themselves and they give up on the planet, because the planet is like, you know, you look outside, it's a gorgeous sunny day here in Southern California. It's so difficult to wrap your head around. I'm like, things are fine. Yes, I'm even guilty of like plastic bottles sometimes if I'm traveling, you know, because you can't feel it every minute of every day. Yes. So that can be, it's really motivating, but it can also be tough for people to wrap their head around. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a big, you need such a big,
so big.
It would need to be a bird that sees from the top. That might be already helping, right? But we see just what we see here, and it's so small. And that's, I mean, yeah, completely. It makes so much sense.
So hard.
As people are really working and living a lot on a selfish, yes. We're always asking, what is in it for me, right? So we always. So this is very good input, and that people can think about. Okay, how can I talk to people, like, for example, when vegans listen to this, or animal lovers, or people who want to change the world and reach more people. I think that's very good input what you gave. Check out what is in it for these people you're talking with. And if you get that point, then you can get them to listen. And then you have already some common ground, so you can talk about it and get more information inside later. But that's the first thing that people open up.
That's the first, yeah. You got to be like a little bit of a detective.
Yeah, right.
As an activist, right?
Amazing. Hearing about your podcast, I just want to share everyone. Like, I just listened to one episode because I just found out about this podcast, but I checked it out and it looks amazing. There's so many beautiful guests as well in it. I want to listen all of these episodes, but there are more than 250 episodes, so I have quite some. I have some schedule now to check them out. They look really amazing. So everyone who wants to listen, Switch for Good podcast, I think that's an amazing support and help for people to understand about the vegan diet, the plant-based diet, about health, about sports, there are so many topics inside. So thank you so much for that. You're interviewing as well awesome, amazing people who have a very big knowledge about these topics as well. So that's amazing. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Thank you for your time. And I think we're kind of at the end of our podcast today, but I'm very sure that we make a second part another time.
I'd love it. Part 2 coming at you.
We can go so much deeper. There's so much possible. And I think we have so many questions, so many things in common. So I love it. Well, one last thing about your organization. How can people support your organization? How can someone, even who's listening here now, how can they help you with anything like donations or other things? What is the possibility there?
Yeah, we would love that. I mean, if you live in the United States, go sign the letter on our website for the Add Soy Act, because it will head straight to your 2 senators and your congressperson. But if you're listening worldwide, I mean, I just would love to invite people to check us out. We mainly focus on dairy for the story that we talked about earlier. So we're a little different than other organizations. I mean, we laser focused. And so if you are listening to this and maybe you're a vegetarian and you're just curious, come to switch4good.org. Of course, we're all on all the, Instagram, Facebook, everything Switch for Good. So easy to find us there, depending on what your favorite channel is. But we have a wonderful deep dive on the website where you can really learn all of the science is there. It's just a drop down. It literally says, what's wrong with dairy? Because it's a question, and then we have health, performance, environment, so people can just really uncover and see what's right for them. You can do it slow, you can do it fast, but we're here to help with that. So yeah.
Amazing. And I saw also on your homepage, on your website, there is a NFT gallery also involved. So that's quite interesting. I love when organizations also open up for different kind of technologies to use them in a way of reaching more people that are nowadays interested in exactly that.
Anybody that wants to go buy art. I mean, it's very different type of art. Most of it is, it has animals, but actually Indra Loka, the animal sanctuary, the Indra that you met as a friend of mine that at the International Animal Rights Conference, a lot of the art is her actual animals that are on property. So we launched the NFT store, like, I'm not even kidding you, like a week before the whole crypto market crashed the last time. So it was like super bad timing, but it's obviously going to come back, or it better, because I'm invested in it and I need to keep Switch for Good going. So it's, I think that we'll, when that comes back, we were hoping it was going to be a great revenue stream for Switch, right? Because, and everybody knows this listening. I mean, nonprofits, your full-time job is fundraising so that you can keep doing this great work, because it's not cheap. So,
exactly. And that's what I want to mention as well. Everyone who's listening here, everyone who's signed up already at Sanus Life, who's a member or part of Sanusplanet as well, from very soon you can send also coins. You can support Switch for Good through our Sanus app. And I'm just encouraging everyone to do that a little bit. Is there anything else
thank you
to share with us? Like your final words for this podcast today, your message, what you want to share with the Sanusplanet community?
I feel so grateful for everybody in the community, because this work, I feel lonely a lot, even though we have an amazing team and we lean on each other, but it's kind of like middle of the night, dark night of the soul thing. If I've had a day where somebody says to me straight in my face, I don't care about the animals, those kinds of, it's isolating and it's lonely. And I just want to say thank you, because we can't do it without each other. Yeah. Love you all. Don't even know you, but I just thank you. Thanks. We got to be here for each other. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I want to say as well, thank you everyone, to the people who are listening today, to everyone. Thank you so much for sharing it, for following it, liking it, whatever. Share it with your friends, invite them to listen to it, and invite them to the Switch for Good podcast as well. Thank you so much, guys. See you next time.
Thanks, Maggie. Bye. This has been a joy.